Arizona moon keeps shining from the desert skies above. You know pretty soon that big yellow moon will light the way back to the one you love. Blue shadows on the trail.
Little cowboy, close your eyes and grin. All of the doggies are in the corral. All of your work is done. Just close your eyes and dream, little pal.
Dream of someone. Ba-bum, 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 ba. Ba-bum, 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 bum. Hey, what is going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to the Smarmy Grin podcast, episode number 10. This is your boy JL, your doggy dog of the night. What's going on, my peeps? And that was the Three Amigos. That awesome, funny, classic movie from the 80s. I think it came out in 86. I absolutely love that movie. On tonight's podcast, the Smarmy Grin podcast, I will be talking about the NBA trade, the latest NBA trade featuring Carmelo Anthony going to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I will also be talking about my love for Narcos. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the new Ken Burns documentary on PBS, the Vietnam documentary. Fantastic if you haven't watched it. Wow. Another great documentary by Ken Burns. And finally, tonight on The Vent, my vent section, the bitching, the moaning, which I call the venting, the vent segment. I want to vent about the NFL players kneeling, President Trump getting involved in all this kneeling talk, and just my opinion on the whole thing. I'm just going to be bitching about the whole situation. Alright, let's get this show started. What's up? What's up? I hope you guys are having a great Sunday night. I'm at home currently watching this Vietnam documentary and watching the NFL at the same time. So, I had a good day, great Sunday, beautiful weather. Love this time of the year. All my favorite things are right around the corner. As far as what I watch, my viewing habits this time of the year. And let's start off with the NBA. Wow, what a shocker. Completely shocked 2 days ago about the Carmelo trade to Oklahoma City. I didn't see that coming. I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. I would have never thought that Carmelo was going to be traded to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And wow, I figured if he was going to get traded, it was probably going to be to Cleveland or Houston, but not Oklahoma. Especially because Carmelo is married to an entertainer, I think. So I wonder how that's gonna work out with his wife being in Oklahoma. But hey, man, Oklahoma is a great city. So, and honestly, Chris Rock, not everybody wants sushi at 3 in the morning. So you can sushi your comment, you know where. But yeah, I think that's a great move by Oklahoma, even if it's for the 1 year, which that's what it looks like it's going to be. Oklahoma just got Paul George not too long ago. And I think Carmelo is going to give them definitely more offensive power. Probably not much defense. They're probably going to have to pick up another player. A journeyman, a good defensive journeyman. So who knows what else they're going to do. But the season hasn't begun yet. So there's a long season for them to make any kind of moves or more moves. But man, I'm excited now. I'm extremely excited. I mean, I was excited going into the season just because Paul George went to the Thunder. And I think that's perfect. I think that's a great combination of athleticism with Westbrook. And now you have Paul George, who's a great defender, and he's just a great all-around player. He reminds me a lot of how T-Mac used to play. And a long player that can play the 1, the 2, and the 3. So he can basically play 3 out of 5 positions on the floor. And it's a shame what happened to him a couple of years ago with that injury. But man, he looks healthy these last 2 seasons. He's looked great, and I really like him. He's a really good player, and I hope and wish for him the best for the rest of his career. But I'm excited. I'm excited about Oklahoma City Thunder. I'm excited now more so about the Western Conference. I wasn't excited about the Western Conference last year. Only because, you know, the whole Durant going to going to a Golden State. And I think when you lose a great player like that, you lose a lot of consistency as far as the conference, the Western Conference, is concerned. Because a lot of people felt, just like I did, when that trade went down and Durant went to, not the trade, but when Durant signed with Golden State, it just felt that the West got weaker, which it definitely did. But I think this move with Paul George and Carmelo going to Oklahoma, that definitely brings, in my opinion, more interest to the NBA and the Western Conference. So I'm excited about next season. I was excited this season. We're not even talking about last season, but I'm talking about this summer D-League. I'm sorry, the summer league season, just to see all these young players that played in the summer league. It was a lot of fun. It was the first time in a long time that I ended up watching just about every other game during the summer, throughout the summer league. And it was fun following it and watching the summer league. So it got me excited. It got me going for this next season. And with Paul George and Carmelo going to the Thunder, I'm even more excited now. I'm not even an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, but I feel for their fans after Durant left, because here in Orlando, we've gone through this same situation time after time for the last 21 years now since Shaq left. Actually, we'll even go back to the Chris Webber trade. So it's good to see that Oklahoma got 2 great players, and good to see that Oklahoma is going to be a contender right along with Houston and Golden State. And I want to see how Portland also is going to be like next year. And the Clippers, maybe the Clippers are done, maybe they're not. I think they're done, though, personally. But it's going to be fun. I'm excited about next season now. I'm also excited about the Eastern Conference. I'm excited about Uncle Drew going to Boston. Well, I said it with that trade went down. I think both teams won with that trade. It's definitely a really not a really, but a great trade for Boston to get Kyrie Irving, Uncle Drew, for Isaiah Thomas and a couple other guys. And but I think also Cleveland got better at the 3. So I believe, who was it they picked up? They got Crowder, I believe, out of that trade. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But he's a solid player, a very good defensive player. And Isaiah, we don't know what's going to happen with him as far as his health issues, but I think he's going to be all right. And on top of that, they got Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is going to give you points. So you're going to have that in Cleveland. So it's going to be an interesting season next year. And definitely a lot of teams in the NBA got better for it. And the brand, which I'm always worried about the brand and the quality, more so the quality of the NBA, because I'm such a huge NBA basketball fan, period, college and NBA. But I was really worried last year when the whole Durant thing went down, because I just thought that was bad for the league, bad for the quality of play for the league. So I think these moves that have happened so far during this offseason, it's going to help out the NBA next year. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. So we'll see what's going to happen next year. But I'm excited for you, Oklahoma City Thunder fans, and I'm glad for a small market like Oklahoma. I'm glad that you guys picked up 2 great players. Small markets need love too, not just the bigger markets. So that was cool to see right before the weekend started, and I can't wait for the NBA season to start up again. So, you can talk about a lot of teams on the East Coast. You can talk about Boston, Cleveland, Washington's going to be solid. Miami's also going to be solid. So, but I'm going to segue my next segment to, speaking of Miami, the Narcos season number 3. I've mentioned in previous podcasts how much I love the Narcos series. I absolutely love this series, and the reason why I love this series is because when I first watched the trailer for Narcos before the show came out, one of the actors that I saw that was going to play Pablo Escobar was Wagner Moura, and I absolutely love Wagner Moura. And I'll be doing a few more podcasts on like TV shows and movies that I like on Netflix that you guys are going to enjoy too. Movies that I'm going to recommend in future podcast episodes. I'm going to dedicate a good 20 half hour to my picks. But if I have to recommend a movie to watch, and if you haven't watched Narcos, I recommend Elite Squad on Netflix. I saw this movie 6 years ago with Wagner Moura. Didn't know him at all. It's a Brazilian movie. I didn't know him. I've never seen him in any other movie, but that was the first time I've ever seen him on screen. And this movie was absolutely fantastic. If you guys watched Training Day, you're definitely going to love this movie. This movie reminds me a lot of Training Day. Certain scenarios in that movie remind me of Training Day. But my personal opinion, this is just my opinion, and you can disagree with me, and people have different taste, but I think that Elite Squad is better than Training Day. I love Denzel, my man, but man, I absolutely love Elite Squad, and Wagner Moura stole the show in that movie. He was the main character, but he was definitely the man, my man, in that movie. He was so he was so good in that movie. A great movie with a great twist in the end, And the movie is about just the police corruption and all these gang-ridden favelas in Brazil, shanty towns in Brazil. So if you have Netflix, look for Elite Squad on Netflix. Sorry, my voice is going in and out. I don't know why. But I definitely recommend that movie. So when I saw the trailer for Narcos 2 years ago, the first person that I saw who was playing Pablo Escobar, was Wagner Moura. And I was already hooked, man. As soon as I saw Wagner on the screen and I saw him in that trailer, I was like, I'm hooked. I know this project is going to be a great project because Wagner Moura picks solid projects to do. So I was hooked, man. As soon as I saw him, I was like, oh my god, that's Wagner Moura, man, the dude from Elite Squad. I have to watch Narcos now. But then I'm thinking, well, the dude is Brazilian, so how is he going to play Pablo Escobar? So later, after the first season of Narcos, and the show becomes this huge show for Netflix, they were interviewing him on how he became Pablo Escobar, and he spoke about he had to learn Spanish and the Colombian accent the first 6 months that he lived in Colombia. So he was one of the first actors that was sent to Colombia 6 months prior of shooting the show. And in those 6 months, they wanted him to learn Spanish. He never spoke in any Spanish. And they wanted him also to learn the dialect, the Colombian dialect, and the accent behind that dialect. So that's what he ended up doing for those 6 months. And I'm telling you, I was floored when I learned that, when I learned that about him and what he had to do to prepare for the role of Pablo Escobar. And I was like, man, I know that, Italian, English, and Spanish, if you know one of those languages, it's easier for you to learn, any of those 3 languages, regardless of what language, what your native tongue is. But I have to tell you, like if I was that actor and they told me, hey man, you got 6 months to learn that language, it would take me probably like 6 more months. So I was like, it's amazing that he did that, and he did a great job. There's certain scenes though in the movie where you can definitely hear him struggle with certain words, but it wasn't as bad as people made it out to be after the first season was over. Because there was a lot of Colombian people that were ticked off because they didn't cast a Colombian actor, and I was like, this dude is perfect for this role. And a lot of Colombian people were in love with the show El Patron, which is basically a soap opera. And man, I'm sorry, man. This is the one thing that I'm Latin, and this is the one thing that our culture does. In our culture, like, we love these Spanish soaps, and I don't get it, man. I just don't get why people love soaps. So I understood why a lot of Colombian people were ticked off that Wagner Moura, a Brazilian, was casted for this particular role as Pablo Escobar. But after I told my Colombian friends, listen, give it a try. Give the show a try. These people didn't even, not only did they give it a try, they binged on it. Most of my friends that are Colombian, I told them, listen, Friday night, start watching that show. That Monday morning when I came back to work, they have already watched the first 2 seasons of Narcos, and they loved it. And they saw what I was talking about as far as Wagner Moura and his command of the language and of the character of Pablo Escobar. And I was like, man, like, you see what I'm talking about now. It's not really about where the guy is from. It's about his command on screen, his command of the role. And honestly, he made Narcos. He really did. Like, the character that he played, Pablo Escobar, he made that character. he really commanded the screen. And when you're watching him, you're like, man, I'm into season 3 now. And I know that this is what happened in real life, that this dude got shot, got killed. But I'm missing Wagner. I'm definitely missing Wagner more on screen. I definitely missed him for season 3. But going back, I know I'm backtracking here, but going back to this whole Miami connection thing, what I've said from the beginning when I started watching this show was that I hope after they got finished with season 2, I hope that season 3 was going to be about the effect of the Medellin cartel had on Miami. And I was really hoping that season 3 was going to be about that, because that would have gone hand in hand with the first 2 seasons and season 3 going into Miami, which I think the show should have done. And I think they made a mistake of going from Medellin straight to Cali and just completely forgetting about Miami. I mean, they did touch on Miami in season 1, maybe for 1 episode, and that was it. But they really didn't go into they didn't go in depth of what really happened in Miami. And if you want to know what really happened in Miami, I recommend the documentary called Cocaine Cowboys on Netflix. And all that, what you're going to see is the connection between what happened in Miami and the mess that was Miami in the late 70s and 80s. The mess that was, to the relation of the Colombian Medellin cartel and Pablo Escobar. So I suggest watching that too, Cocaine Cowboys. And it's just that's what this season missed. This season just came out. I binged on it and I finished it. I still liked it. I forget the name of the actor that plays Agent Pena. I think he's a really good actor. He's done a great job. And but you can definitely tell that they try to put too much into one season. And it kind of got season 3 kind of got lost in translation for for a little bit, but it was still a really good season. I'm not here bashing the season because they did a great job too, but I just think they missed out. They missed out on the whole Miami connection, and it would have been more interesting for the viewers to have that Miami connection and then go into the Cali part of it, what happened to the Cali cartel. So that was my only gripe about this season, and I suggest you guys watch that documentary, Cocaine Cowboys. Also, another documentary that you can find on YouTube if you already watched it or you haven't watched this whole Cali and Medellin cartel. I would also suggest Hunting for Escobar. I believe that's the name of the documentary that's on YouTube. It's called Hunting for Escobar. And the 2 main characters on the show, Agent Pena and Steve Murphy, they were interviewed for that documentary like 13 years ago, and I remember watching it when it first came out, right around 13 or 14 years ago. And the documentary is great because both of them, Agent Pena and Murphy, they go into specifics about a lot of the things that they were involved in, outside of the Narcos show. So that's a great documentary to watch if you enjoy these types of shows. So remember, watch Hunting for Escobar, Cocaine Cowboys, and Hunting for Escobar, Cocaine, and Elite Squad, the movie. So that's my recommendations right now. One of these days, I'll go into it and speak more in depth and more in detail about these documentaries in future episodes. Now, going from there to speaking of documentaries, I started to watch the documentary on Vietnam 2 Sundays ago. I have a good friend of mine who was in Vietnam. He's an older guy, I'm a younger guy. And Yo spoke a little about. I mean, he mentioned it a few times. He didn't really speak about it that much, but he would just mention that he was in Vietnam and stuff. But it was cool, hearing his perspective on the whole subject the few times that we spoke about it. And when this Ken Burns documentary of Vietnam came out 2 weeks ago on PBS, I texted him. I was like, "Hey man, you need to watch this?" And he automatically texted me back, "I'm already watching it." And he likes it. And honestly, folks, you can't go wrong with a Ken Burns documentary. And what I really enjoy and like about this documentary is that there is no agenda behind this documentary. A lot of Ken Burns documentaries are like that. I absolutely love most of his documentaries. My two other favorite ones were the Prohibition. That was a good one. But my two favorite ones, besides this one, this Vietnam one now, was Unforgivable Darkness, about Jack Johnson, heavyweight champion, the first heavyweight champion, black champion, boxing champion, the first heavyweight black boxing champion of the world, Jack Johnson. And that documentary is spectacular. Absolutely love that documentary. The other one that I really enjoyed and loved as much as the Jack Johnson documentary is the Mark Twain documentary. Beautiful, beautiful documentary. So this one in Vietnam, I've been watching 3 episodes now, and it's so specific and so detailed, and they give you a lot of different footages that you've never seen on the screen, brutal footages, and it just gives you this perspective on life and the people that were involved on both sides of this war, and how much both countries suffered, and how much a lot of Vietnam vets suffered on both sides of the countries, Vietnam and here in the States. But it's so sad what happened there. And after watching this, I mean, it's an emotional documentary. I mean, if you're not moved by this documentary, there's something wrong with you. I've watched the Ken Burns World War II documentary, which is another beautiful documentary about World War II, a more personal documentary. But this one is so... It feels like the way that they shot this thing, it feels like you're in the trenches with these Vietnam vets. And what happened there was so sad, and extremely sad for both sides. But it's a great documentary, so I definitely recommend it. I've been hooked on this and watching it, and when you watch something like that, it definitely gives you a different perspective on life, on things that are important in life and things that are not important. And it's just a lot of things that are going on in the world, especially after you watch a documentary like this or the World War II documentary with Ken Burns. You're like, you know what, man, like this whole politics thing is really not that big of a deal. This whole professional athletes kneeling down, it's not really that big of a deal. So it's definitely these documentaries definitely do that for you. They basically bring you back down to earth and slap you and smack you around and just wakes you up. So I definitely recommend this documentary, Ken Burns documentary on Vietnam. I also recommend the Jack Johnson, heavyweight boxer Jack Johnson documentary, and the Mark Twain documentary, and the World War II documentary. All these, honestly, you can't go wrong with a Ken Burns documentary. I absolutely love Ken Burns documentaries. I love documentaries as a whole, but the Ken Burns are the best ones. I'm losing my voice here, man. I feel like a 13-year-old kid. I can't speak tonight. But anyways. And finally, on my final my last segment of the Smarmy Grin podcast, which I called The Vent, The Bitching, The Moaning, The Vent. What I want to touch on tonight on the Vent segment is I want to talk about NFL players kneeling down. I want to talk about President Trump getting involved, in my opinion. So, these NFL players, starting with Kaepernick, they've been kneeling down. They've been kneeling for the national anthem. He's been doing it for last couple of years. It's been a divisive subject that has really affected a lot of people, and a lot of people are just passionate about this on both sides of the aisle, if you agree with it or not. Personally, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't take a knee. I have a lot of friends that were in the military and that are still in the military. I respect them. I respect our flag. This is my own personal opinion on it. And so I personally wouldn't do it. But at the same time, honestly, it doesn't bother me if NFL players or basketball players or major league players kneel down for the anthem, our national anthem. I really don't have an issue with it, and I've changed my stance on it. I had an issue with it last year, only because it became so divisive. But honestly, people, when you have now the president calling NFL players SOBs, when you have the president now telling the Golden State Warriors, well, you're not welcome to the White House, it's getting absolutely ridiculous. Do we all have to bitch and moan about something? I mean, leave it to me. Let me do the bitching and moaning for you. No, but seriously, like, everybody has something to bitch about now. And I have an excuse, because this is part of the segment of the Vent. But seriously, when you have the president on Twitter every other day tweeting about this and that, acting like a 15-year-old boy or a 15-year-old girl on Twitter, it's absolutely ridiculous. And for him to call these players SOBs, I mean, that's kind of a low blow, man. Regardless, you do hold the office. That is your office. There's a responsibility that comes with that office. And I will be the first one to say that President Trump has done a good job so far. He has dealt with a lot of controversy that a lot of the controversy that he created. But also, my personal opinion, the guy's doing a good job. And if it wasn't for these outside noises that he creates, nobody would really be paying any attention to him. And most of the country would be like, most of the country would feel the same way that I do. He's doing a good job. Which he is. He's doing a good job. But when you sit there and you complain and moan on Twitter about entertainers and the media and football players, it makes me wonder where your head is, man. Your head should be with the job that is at hand as far as being the president. You're not a president of some type of entertainment club, because you're not. You're the president of the United States of America, and act like it. Now, back to the players. I will criticize you guys because you guys also have a responsibility. I understand a lot of you want to kneel down. That is your personal choice. I respect that. a lot of former service members and current service members, they have spoken and come out freely spoken about how they support you guys in doing this. Which I get both sides of the argument. But at the same time, if you have an invitation to go to the White House, regardless of who the president is, it's your responsibility to go, and let me tell you why. If you do or don't like Trump, I would say go to the White House. Be a man. Don't take the coward's way out and say that you're not going to go. This is what Stephen Curry said and other players on Golden State have said. We're not going. This is a tradition that's been ongoing for years and years and years. And personally, regardless of whoever is in office, if I was in your position, I would go. I would go because I also believe that I get you don't respect the man, President Trump. I get that. I understand that. But at least respect the office that he holds and respect the White House. I would go because I'm a history buff. And I would love to see the White House firsthand and other buildings around the White House and around DC firsthand. And see the history behind it and learn about the history behind it. And spend the night in the Lincoln bedroom. But besides that though, and honestly, who doesn't want to go to the White House and drink like a White House, like white ale beer or a dark beer? Oh man, imagine that's like telling your buddies or telling like a hot chick at a bar, I climbed Mount Everest. That's your opening line. And that's it. That's all you need. And then you could use that as an opening line. I had that dark beer at the White House, and I stayed at the Lincoln room, and I made love to my girlfriend at the Lincoln bedroom. So, come on, man. Who doesn't want that? What man doesn't want that in their resume? But, like, seriously, you guys are taking the coward's way out, because if you disagree with the man, and if the president calls you an SOB, then I would show up at the White House and I would have a personal conversation with him. And I would tell him face to face what I don't like about him and what he can do to remedy things in this country. That's what I would do. I think you do yourself a disservice, your team a disservice, your community a disservice if you don't go to the White House. You should go and have a conversation with the president and other politicians there. Because if you don't get yourself involved in this, then your actions, meaning your inaction of not going, doesn't mean a damn thing. What message are you sending by not going to the White House? What message are you sending by turning down the invitation? Stephen Curry is one of the biggest faces in the league, in the NBA, and he should take this opportunity to go to the White House and talk to the president and express his frustrations. Sitting back and not going does nothing for you and your cause. The same thing goes for Kaepernick. If you want to make a change, then get involved. Go to Washington and speak to these politicians and speak to the president, because I'm sure they will hear you out because you have a voice. The rest of us, we don't really have a voice. But you have a voice more so, and it's amplified more so because you guys are in the limelight. So that's my take on that whole a kneeling down thing. And honestly, I've read some really hateful comments on Yahoo that I was going to read tonight on the vent. And it's so infuriating reading all these comments from just regular Joes, regular people. And honestly, a lot of you people are a bunch of losers because you're trashing all these players for kneeling down. And I get it. I understand it. I don't like it either, but I'm not going to trash them. That's their right. You losers, your first argument is, well, if I did this at work, they would fire me. Yeah, exactly. Because their job is completely different from our job, stupid. I mean, what part of that don't you understand? Your whole argument of, well, they work for a corporation. Yeah, they do. But it's a different corporation than what you work, where you work at and where I work at. So that whole argument goes out the window. The other argument, which is completely stupid, is I'm going to boycott the NFL. I'm going to stop watching NFL games. You're going to do that until your team starts winning, and then you're back at it. You losers. Because you know you're going to do that. Hey, I said the same thing last year with the NBA when Kevin Durant signed with the Golden State Warriors. I'm not going to watch this product, blah, 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 blah. That's what I said. Yes, I was being a hypocrite. And guess what happened? The NBA has me hooked this year by the signings that just happened with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the trade that happened with Boston. So I'm hooked. And yes, I'm watching again. I'm a hypocrite just like the rest of you losers. So stop complaining and bitching and moaning on Yahoo about these players, because honestly, how does it affect you in your personal life on what they're doing on the field? And it doesn't affect me whatsoever in my personal life. I could care less what they do. Play football, bring me entertainment. That's what I care about. I'm down here in Florida. We just had a Cat 5, Cat 4 hurricane go through our state. And in my area, it was a Cat 3, Cat 2. When you go through something like that, especially when you know people that have been affected more than you have, and you have family that lives down in the Keys that have been affected more than you have, everything else really doesn't matter. So whatever is going on in politics right now, and whatever's going on with these NFL players and with you losers bitching about the NFL players, I don't really care, because it doesn't affect my life. What affected my life was what just happened here in Central Florida and in Florida in general. This hurricane going through our state. And something like that puts things into perspective, and it gives you a different perspective on life. So a lot of us down here in Florida, we could care less if these players kneel down or don't kneel down. We all want an escape, and our escape is football. So I'll still be watching. I'll watch today. I missed the first weekend of the NFL, the opening weekend, because of Irma. But this is week number 2 or 3, and I'm back watching football. This is number 3, I believe. So I'm back watching football because everything is somewhat back to normal. So you losers, they're on Yahoo saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna watch anymore. I'm gonna boycott. I'm not gonna buy this or that." Man, quit your bitching, quit your moaning. Leave it up to me to do all the bitching and the moaning. What a bunch of babies, man. Grown man. This is what I see in our society. All you people, the problem with a lot of you losers is that you don't have any hobbies. So a lot of you are just bored. Go play a sport. Pick up some kind of hobby so you can keep your mind busy instead of bitching and moaning about what other people are doing or not doing. We have become a country of nothing but whiners. That's what we are. We whine and bitch about this and that. And that goes across all of our society. From blacks to whites to Hispanics to Asians to... Actually, the Asians really don't bitch. And really, we Hispanics, we don't really bitch either. But we have too many people, though. all across cultural lines that bitch and moan about this and that. Jesus, man. Just think about those people that lost everything they had in Barbuda and in the Caribbean in Saint Martin. They don't have squat left. Just think about that. They don't have anything left. And you're here bitching about an NFL player or players kneeling. Come on, man. That is so stupid. How does that affect your personal life? Honestly, it doesn't. You people are just losers, man. Get on with your lives, man. And you know, all of you are going to be all of you are going to be back watching football later on this season anyways. It's going to happen. This shall pass. And you will be back watching football. So that's my take tonight on the Smarmy Grin podcast, episode number 10. And I apologize for losing my voice. And I will sign off now. Man, that felt good, man. I wanted to get that off my chest all weekend long because it's so frustrating. Just reading all these stupid ass comments on Yahoo and YouTube about this whole kneeling down thing. Then you got the president involved. My God, people, get a life. Anyways, thanks for listening to the Smarmy Grin podcast, episode number 10. And I hope you guys have an awesome Sunday night. Sunday Night Football is back. It's been back, but it's back for me because it's the first time in 2 weeks that I've watched it. Actually, it's the first time since last year. Anyways, I hope you guys have an awesome week. I'll talk to you in a couple of days, and I will talk to you all later. Whoa, that was not me. That was my couch, man. Anyways, I will talk to you guys later. Thanks for listening to the Smarmy Grin podcast. See ya!